There's a lot of you guys going ballistic in the comments of my last video titled, I think it was, "Here's Why I Don't Buy Toyota Parts," something like that. I will link it in the cards and down below. What so many people are saying in those comments is basically that I'm dumb for not going with genuine Toyota parts on this 4Runner when I'm replacing all this stuff. So if you have been following the channel, you know that this is a new to me 2005 Toyota 4Runner. Now it's had a life. This thing has 236,000 miles and it was well used. The previous owner was the second owner, and the story he got was that this previous to him was like a soccer mom type of situation, so it was regularly serviced and driven lightly. Now that second owner, the previous owner, he definitely used it off-road. He said he towed a trailer a little bit, but nothing crazy. I asked him, if he had gone through water and things like that. He said no, mostly just like dirt trails, nothing technical or anything like that. However, the state that this thing was in when I got it, it was gnarly, mostly dirty. I did get under the truck and look at the frame. I wanted to make sure, because of the research I did before I bought this thing, the Toyota frames, I guess from this generation, are absolute garbage. Swiss cheese. And so I got under the truck and really inspected this frame, and what I saw, delighted me. I mean, it did not look rusty at all. There wasn't even outside surface rust. So I was pleased with the frame on this thing, which is one of the main reasons why I ultimately chose to buy this thing. Now I knew the whole point, the whole purpose of this vehicle, you guys have to understand, is to create content. I mean, obviously to create cool content. I don't want to just go out and get like a PT Cruiser or something like that. So to create content on this channel. That being said, I also want to do things to the very, very best of my ability. And of course, over time, we grow, we learn more. And so yeah, inevitably, right now, I'm dumber than I will be a year from now, or 2 years, or 5 years. Now my point there is that yes, my opinion can change. But what I'm saying today is the very best of what knowledge I have, okay? Aside from all of that, getting back to the comments that have been made about using non-genuine Toyota parts. I did use non-genuine Toyota parts, but there is a very, very big reason why. And I think and I hope you will understand and agree with me here, okay? I'm gonna give you some numbers. The first number I'm going to give you is the price of this 4Runner. The price I paid. I paid $5 grand for this thing. $5,000. That's in some ways not a lot of money, and in other ways, in my way, that was a lot of money. I wanted to make sure I was getting a solid vehicle that could use work. And of course, this thing having the mileage it had, and looking underneath this thing, knowing that the CV axles had been replaced in the past, seeing that one of those CV axles was flinging grease and looked horrible, which was an aftermarket axle, by the way, I think, as well as just asking about the service history, looking at some of the records, I knew that this thing, although taken care of, basically was almost completely original. Yes, the CV axles are aftermarket, but everything else so far seems to be factory Toyota. Potentially even original to the truck. That speaks volumes to the quality of Toyota parts. I get it. I am right there with you guys. I love using OEM when I can and where I can, and when it makes sense. But when it doesn't make sense, I have to use the very best aftermarket parts I can find. And how do I do that? Well, what I'll do is go to, for example, Rock Auto's website, and I'll see what's available, what they list for my vehicle. Then I'll go to YouTube and I'll do some reviews and I'll see what other people are installing. I'll go to Facebook. I'll look at some of the 4Runner groups. I'll look at what those people are installing. And yes, there are going to be some people, no matter how old, no matter how thrashed the car is, that absolutely will only use Toyota parts. That is phenomenal. That's the best thing you can do. Use Toyota parts for your Toyota. And when I say Toyota parts, I mean genuine Toyota. But I think that the majority of us who own an old vehicle, 2005, that's not worth very much money, that's been through the ringer, that needs some refreshing and updating, we're not going to spend nearly half of the vehicle's total value just replacing parts on, say, the front end. That's what I just went through. On both sides, I replaced, essentially, I kept one CV axle, but the CV axles, the hubs, hub assemblies, the upper and lower ball joints, the sway bar bushings, the sway bar end links, I did all that stuff. I might be forgetting something. And after considering and calling multiple dealerships on prices for parts, there was just no way I could buy those parts. No way. Now, if I owned a 2022, 2024 vehicle that needed a part, I would absolutely be going to Toyota and buying the part from them. But this is a 2005. It's almost 20 years old. All right, with all of that being said, I hope you kind of feel where I'm coming from here. It's not that I didn't want to use the Toyota genuine parts. That's who I am. I love using original factory parts. I know they are going to be superior in some ways. But when it doesn't make sense and I have to use aftermarket parts, I'm gonna get the very best aftermarket parts I can get. I do my research as I described and choose from there. So in a nutshell, why didn't I use genuine Toyota parts on my Toyota? Well, the price. Okay, some of you may have seen the video where I replaced the knuckle here on the driver's side because as I was replacing parts, I realized that the two bolts that hold on that bottom ball joint bracket to the knuckle, both of those bolts were stripped out. And so therefore, also the holes in the knuckle were stripped out. Totally stripped out. So the knuckle had to be replaced. So I did my research. I needed to replace the knuckle. I went to Toyota. Guess how much the Toyota knuckle was here on the driver's side? Yeah, $500. $498 to be exact. Called two different dealerships, same price. $498. Totally worth it if it's a new vehicle worth something. This one isn't that. So what did I do? I went to Rock Auto. This video is not sponsored, by the way. I just really like Rock Auto and how they work. So I went there and I looked up a knuckle. Lo and behold, they had one. It was a Dorman unit. We all know Dorman. And looking at it in the pictures, I mean, it seemed good. It seemed totally fine. It was $140, guys. $140. That is a far cry from $500. And you got to remember here, I'm replacing a lot of parts. I'm not just replacing one simple part that went bad, and so therefore I could just splurge and get the OEM stuff, throw it on, and call it a day. Now I'm replacing practically everything on this front end. So I couldn't start with spending $500 over $140. So the Dorman unit it was. I got it in the mail, and taking it out of the box, it was beautiful. It looked very nicely machined, and there was parts of it that were actually thicker than the Toyota unit. Now, I'm not saying one is better than the other, or that the Dorman is as good as the Toyota. I mean, who knows? The Dorman may be as good, but how would you ever test that? Okay, moving on. Let's talk about the upper ball joint situation. The upper ball joint I used was Moog. $30-something, I think. The Toyota ball joint, you can't buy. You have to buy the entire upper control arm, which is great. If my vehicle needed that, I would have went Toyota, because now I'm getting a Toyota upper control arm with the pre-installed bushings and a pre-installed upper ball joint. Still pricey at $398. So please, guys, understand, I'm not going to spend $400 on a whole new upper control arm with the ball joint and the bushings. Yeah, it comes with all that, but still, when I can simply press out the old factory ball joint and press in a new Moog unit that's 33 bucks. It's a no-brainer. Okay, lower ball joint, same situation. I bought a Moog unit, and with Toyota, you can't buy a lower ball joint. You have to buy the entire lower control arm. Let me check the price again, just so I don't get it wrong. Yeah, that's what I thought. $543. Yes, you get a new lower control arm, you get the ball joint and the bushings. If my truck needed that, of course, I would have went that route. But the Moog lower ball joint, you can buy just a simple lower ball joint, was 33 bucks. Actually, the upper ball joint, by the way, was only $22. I got that wrong. Upper ball joint was 22 from Moog, and the lower ball joint was 33. 33 bucks versus $543 to take care of the lower ball joint. Who of you, comment below if you're one of them, because I know there's some of you out there, but who, if you just want to replace your lower ball joint, who is going to spend $543 on a whole new lower control arm if all you want to do is replace your ball joint? Who? Comment below, let me know. Okay, now moving on to the hub assembly. Guess what? You can't buy a hub assembly from Toyota. They sell you a hub and they sell you a bearing, which you then have to get pressed together with the seal in there. The seal's 20 bucks, by the way, from Toyota. And you have to do all that on your own. Take it to a machine shop, you know, whatever. You have to figure it out on your own. The prices of those two parts, are you ready for this? The hub is $235 thereabouts, and the bearing was $259. And like I said, that little seal that goes in between was 20 bucks. Yeah, that's a lot of money. Now, I went Moog. Checking my notes here. I went Moog. The Moog Hub Assembly already has the hub and the bearing and the seal. Everything is pressed together in one unit. Ready to go out of the box. 109 bucks. 109. I really can't see anyone. Have you guys done that? Have you guys went to Toyota, bought the hub, bought the bearing and the seal for that amount of money, went and pressed them together to install in your vehicle? Or did you just buy an aftermarket part, you know, hopefully the best one you could afford and do research on and find, have it ready out of the box to install and call it a day? Guys, $109 versus basically $500. It's a no-brainer. Okay, and the last one I want to touch on is the CV Axle, okay? If you saw my videos, I replaced this driver's side CV Axle. I called Toyota. Their CV Axle for this vehicle was $611. $611. The Cardone unit that I bought was, I want to say $69. I get it. Maybe the Toyota unit is far superior. I'm with you. But when you're talking about $611 versus $69, I know there are going to be those people that are going to comment below and they're going to tell me that they would have bought the Toyota CV Axle all day long because it'll last another 250,000 miles. Please remember, the CV axles on this truck had been replaced. So these weren't factory. I couldn't just take them off, reboot them, which is what I wanted to do. I bought rebooting kits because I thought they were. But when I took a closer look, they're not factory Toyota. So I have CV axle rebooting kits in my shop that I will use at some point, just to, maybe when these CV axle boots wear out, I'll just reboot them and make a video on that. But I don't know how you go from $69 aftermarket Cardone, it's a name brand we all know, to $611 Toyota. I would love to buy the Toyota parts. I just can't afford it. Especially on a $5,000 truck. I can't afford to put that kind of money into these parts. Is it worth doing it? Yeah, it probably is, because those parts are probably made as high quality as they come. And they will probably last they would probably outlast this vehicle. Look guys, this is my first Toyota, my first 4Runner. This is me dipping my toes into the Toyota world. I just want to get this thing up and running and safe. I want all the parts to be new. I want to know that they were installed correctly. I don't want hardware store bolts, stripped out bolt holes. I want to make sure that everything was done to the very best of my ability. So I hope that you guys kind of get it. I know some of you do. Some of you did. Some of you know. Some of you understand. But some of you, and I'm with you, are Toyota or nothing. I just wish I could afford that. I just can't right now. I'm doing my best. I'm putting the very best parts, aftermarket parts I can on this thing. And hey, it's a test. We're gonna get to see how long these things last, because you can bet that I will be making videos on any of these parts that fail what I would consider prematurely. Okay, the final numbers. Let's tally them up and see what we're looking at here. Let's just say I decided to go completely Toyota, get the whole upper control arm, lower control arm assemblies, buy everything Toyota. Let's say that I did all that. And every part we talked about, I went straight Toyota. So the driver's side knuckle, $498. So we'll just do the $498 for the driver's side. Upper ball joint and lower ball joint. We did both sides. So this is going to be $398 for the upper, plus $398, and plus $398 for the passenger side. So that's both sides. Plus, let's do 2 of the lower ball joint, which is really the whole control arm assembly. $543 plus $543, so that's both sides. Plus, we need to do the hub at $235 for both sides, plus $235. The bearing for both sides, so plus $259, plus $259. And I only replaced one CV axle, so we'll only add one CV axle here, so plus $611. Wow, our grand total is $3,979. Is this right? That's almost the cost of this whole vehicle. Okay, so let's add up the aftermarket parts. $140 for the Dorman steering knuckle on one side only. We have the upper ball joint at $22.79 plus $22.79. That's both sides. Plus the lower ball joint, which is $33.79 plus $33.79. That's both sides. Okay, now we'll get to the hub assembly. 109 plus 109. That's both sides. Plus, we'll get to the CV axle. I only replaced one. So 69 and some change. So my total here was $540 in total parts that I spent versus $3,900. 540 versus 3,900. What was it? 3,970 something? Let's just go 3,950 minus 540. We're talking about a difference of $3,400. 3,400. By buying these aftermarket parts, by doing the work myself, I only spent $540. If I would have went to Toyota and bought all those parts Toyota, that would have been $3,900. I bought the whole vehicle for $5,000. I can't spend $4,000 after tax on just a few front end parts. I just can't. I can't do it. Let me know if you guys are with me. Let me know if you guys agree. And maybe you think that, okay, you could have went aftermarket on those parts, but Toyota, you had to use Toyota on these parts. Let me know what you guys think. Are there certain parts, no matter what, you would have went Toyota, and some of them you're like, oh, yeah, okay, you can use the aftermarket stuff. Let's start the discussion down below. I just thought I'd give you a good insight into my thinking, into what I'm doing here. I want to maintain this thing. I want to know what's here. I want to make sure that the parts are installed to the very best of my ability. I want to make sure that they're good parts. I'm doing my research and getting parts that are a good name brand, an aftermarket brand. And I think that I did. I did the best I can do. I think it's going to last just fine. It's not overly lifted. I think it has a 2-inch spacer in there from the previous owner. I still have a lot of things to do to this thing, but I just wanted to get the rolling chassis good. What do you think? I'm Jimmy for One Road. Thank you for watching my rant here. I don't really put videos out like this very often, but I felt like it was necessary based off of the comments I was getting on my last video. Again, I'll link that below. Well, thanks again, guys. We'll see you in the next one.